did not come. Egypt.
No, I think they were here.
Anyway. I mean, for this press conference.
I think our esteemed dignitaries on stage require no introductions, but I will do it nonetheless. I have
Oh, sorry, I think they were a mix-up.
I have President Jean-Louis Ekra, former president of Afreximbank and deputy chair of the Advisory Council, president and chairman of the board of directors of Afreximbank, President Benedict Orama, His Excellency Ambassador Albert Muchanga, Honorable Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism and Minerals, and His Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat. Dear esteemed spokespeople, in the room today you have over 60 different media from across the region who have been with us for the past 7 days, writing stories, writing articles, conducting interviews, and really telling the story of intra-Africa trade. They have been our partners in the trenches. If you have media alerts on your phones, they have been buzzing and blazing for the past 7 days. So we are really, really appreciative and grateful for their commitment, for their partnership in helping tell this Africa story. As you can imagine, it's a big group of both broadcast and print media, like I said, from across the country in different languages. So what we have done is proposed to them to send in questions that we will share that we have collated, and I will moderate one question for each of you, and then we'll open up just 2 questions because I think we also have to be mindful of time, and then we will wrap. So if I may, I would say, President Orama, I think everyone has been haranguing me throughout this week for FaceTime with you, and I think now that they have it, the very first question on people's minds is, some experts believe, and this question particularly came from Ristel Chounon of La Tribune Afrique, some experts believe that in order to make the most of its potential, Africa should aim to increase its share of world markets. Can Afreximbank's IATF strategy be a catalyst for Africa's trade with the world? This one is for you, President Orama.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me also at this closing ceremony, so to say, a closing press conference, add my voice of appreciation to all those who have helped us to make this a success, especially you, the media, who have been reporting this event. Those that have followed have been very, very positively reporting the event. And that is the only way we can achieve the objectives of this trade fair. To come back to the question, what theory says is that countries or regions achieve dynamic comparative advantage in exporting by first trading amongst themselves. It's when they trade among themselves, they gain knowledge, they gain information about how to export, they then create more efficient value chains among themselves, then they are able to export and compete more effectively globally. So Intra-African Trade Fair is helping us to break the difficulties that colonialism imposed on Africa. The division into so many countries. Not one of them has any meaningful relationship with the neighbor. We're not trading with ourselves. We couldn't exploit the advantages we have with ourselves. Colonialism made it, created a situation where we only dealt with outside partners, but not ourselves. So what Intra-African Trade Fair is doing is to begin to change that, to create a platform for exchange of information so that we know that the market just across the border is as good an opportunity as one very far away. It helps us to bring confidence to our people. Many people, many businesses see dealing with their neighbors as very risky, and that is because what you don't know is risk. Whereas they can deal with others, very, very far away countries, so easily. So this trade fair creates that opportunity for us to know and understand ourselves. It goes even further to make it possible for us to build viable partnerships, business-to-business relations, person-to-person relations, which are the foundations for stronger trade and investment relations. So the impact of this trade fair cannot be underestimated at all. And that is why, among the first decisions taken by African leaders when they set up the Organization of African Unity in 1963 was a decision to start conducting all Africa trade fairs to begin to remove the constraints that colonialism has imposed on us in dealing with ourselves. And when we then deal with ourselves, produce more, create regional value chains, we are then able to create opportunities to trade more with others and then have a larger share of world market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question came in from Ndamu Sandu of Newsday Zimbabwe. And I will address this question to you, Deputy Chair, Mr. Ekra. Hosting the trade fair is a mammoth challenge, and very few countries have the infrastructure to host such a mega event. What support are you giving countries to be able to host this event so that it is spread across the continent?
Actually, it's a very, very important question. And you could see that the first trade fair was held here in Egypt, essentially because they have the infrastructure. The second one was in Durban, South Africa, which also has already the infrastructure. The third one was supposed to take place in Cote d'Ivoire, but for different reasons, it couldn't happen in Cote d'Ivoire. So we have decided at the Intra-African Trade Advisory Council that we will now engage more governments into making sure that they build this infrastructure before we can consider organizing the fair there. Together with Afreximbank and the AU Commission and the Secretariat of the AFCFTA, we've decided to engage those many countries because nobody can underestimate the importance of such an event. So it is important that African countries start looking at building this type of infrastructure. To organize a trade fair, we have drawn a list of requirements, and we'll be engaging countries so that they can start meeting those requirements.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question is from Bakari Dabo of All Africa, and I'm going to address this question to you, Your Excellency Wankele Mene, Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat. As head of the Secretariat, given the instability in certain regions in Africa plagued by political and security crisis, are you concerned about a disparity in the implementation of the AFCFTA? And if yes, how do we address those, how do we mitigate those risks?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, the issue of instability on the continent, unconstitutional changes of government, coup d'etats, the African Union has been very, very clear in stating that governance is critical to a stable trading environment. You will recall that there was a special session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government on this issue of unconstitutional changes of government, which was held in Malabo last year. There, the heads of states reinforced the message that unconstitutional changes of government is totally unacceptable. From our point of view, from a trade point of view, there's a very, very negative effect. People get shut out of markets. Informal traders are not able to access markets across borders when borders are closed. So it becomes a very disruptive factor to trade. And that is why the Assembly of Heads of States and Government has taken this matter very, very seriously. There are, of course, also regional economic communities that are attending to this. ECOWAS is fully engaged in ensuring that all of the pockets of instability that we see, the coup d'etats, that these matters are dealt with in accordance with the rules, either the rules of ECOWAS or indeed the rules of the African Union Commission. So the answer is that yes, it is a disruptive factor, and the people that suffer the most are the informal traders, the small medium enterprises who are then shut out of markets, and of course the inflationary pressures that are caused when these incidents take place. So we're very concerned about it, but as I say, it is not just a matter for the AFCFTA Secretariat, it is a matter that is in the hands of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The next question is for you, actually, Your Excellency, Ambassador Albert Muchanga, Honorable Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism and Minerals. It's actually a house question. Transforming Africa into a global trade powerhouse is a key objective of Agenda 2063 of the African Union. What's your assessment so far on realizing this vision, especially in the context of intra-Africa trade? And more importantly, how is the AU closing the policy gaps?
Thank you very much, Director of this ceremony. Very, very important question. And it can also be related to the first aspiration of the African Union Agenda 2063. And the aspiration is that a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And during this, my second term, we decided to operationalize this aspiration. We joined forces with our colleagues from Outer NEPAD and the African Development Bank to come up with a study on key actions to achieve inclusive growth and sustainable development in Africa. And that study is, the results of that study are going to be an agenda item at the next meeting of the Assembly of the African Union Heads of State and Government. And there are two key focus areas there. One, to increase Africa's share of investment from 20% of GDP to 40%. It looks very huge and impossible, but it's possible with the strategic management. And two, to position the majority of African countries to attain 7 to 10% annual growth rates over the next 30 years. And this is very vital, because as I'm speaking to you right now, close to 546 million people are in the category of the poor people. of Africa. And this is slightly below 50%, but it's almost 50%. Therefore, to reduce poverty, you need these high rates of growth. It's been established theoretically, and it has also been established practically. And the United Nations is also calling for these rates of growth, just as the African Union Agenda 2063 said, beginning in 2023, and this is 2023, Africa should grow at a minimum rate of 7% annual. So that's the first initiative. The second initiative, Africa's share of global trade has been declining since the 1970s. It used to be around 6% in the 1970s. Right now, as I'm talking to you, it's about 2.7%. So, collaborating with the African Export-Import Bank, we have initiated a study on export development and export diversification so that we move Africa away from the production and export of raw materials to export of manufactured goods, agro-processed goods, as well as increasing shares in services like tourism and labor. So that is the third initiative we're undertaking. The third one, which is building on our work, which is being done by our sister institution, the African Continental Free Trade Area, is a readiness assessment towards an African Customs Union / common market. That one is required for a number of reasons. One of which is that if we do not have a common external tariff as soon as possible, Africa is going to face a problem of transshipment, and the result will be deindustrialization, and that is going to erode our development processes. So, and the foundations are there. The protocol on free movement of people, the investment protocol, protocol on intellectual property rights, and a protocol on the competition policy. All these are foundations. So that's why we're undertaking that readiness assessment to see how we can move in that direction. And because of these efforts, and because Africa is a young continent with a large population, 1.4 billion people, which is 18% of the global population, and it will be 25% in the next 2050, and 38% around 2100. The global community has said Africa can contribute in global governance. And as a result, we are now members of the G20. So with that position, we are going to contribute to ensuring that we benefit from the global system of governance, and also we put our ideas on how to protect our interests, speaking as one voice, one Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable His Excellency Commissioner Buchanga. I would just ask that media in the room, I will ask my next question and I will open up to you in the room. I think team just have roving mics around, so let's get prepared. President Rama, I'll come to you for the next question. It's actually from Yomna Yassar of Amwal Al-Gad, English version, Egyptian paper. And it says, we signed and launched many new initiatives over the last 7 days, the EPC initiative, the Food Security Initiative. As a key supporter or promoter of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, what do we still need to do to fully activate and achieve this, especially in developing and opening new markets within Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the things we need to do is what we are doing at the trade fair. That is what will expose an Egyptian who doesn't know anything about Gambia to meet the Gambians and begin to understand Gambia. But we can do much more, and we are doing much more. We've decided to use the power of digital technology to bring down the borders. We know that the borders, you cannot just say, oh, all these divisions that have happened over so many years will go away just by waving of our hands. So with digital technology does something. It opens up the entire market of Africa just to you at the press of a button. But to be able to do that, somebody has to invest in it. And that is what we have been doing, working in most cases in collaboration with the African Union Commission and the AFCFTA Secretariat. We have done, built on the African Trade Observatory that the AU has done in partnership with the ITC to do the trader intelligence, which is an artificial intelligence-enabled trade information service that predicts supply chains. It is able to tell you markets where you can see goods to buy and what to sell, and much more. We've also done trader regulations, also pulling all the regulations cutting across trade, investment, banking, whatever, into one place, so people can go and see. And in doing that, we're also helping countries that do not have very active websites for this information to get them, so that we can use APIs to pull the data into one source, so that anybody who wants information about any country can just go to one place and get access to that information. We've also developed the African Customer Due Diligence Platform. We call it the MANSA platform. That platform was developed because we have been made not to trust our people. We've been made to believe that dealing with an African who is from another country is the riskiest thing in the world. And that's because we don't know them. So what we did is to say, okay, we don't want you to just trust. We want to provide you the data and the information that you need to make up your mind. And that information is the Customer Due Diligence Repository platform, where you go, you get detailed information about those who are onboarded onto that platform. And today we have about 12,000 entities onboarded, and that's a platform the Association of African Central Banks have also adopted as a due diligence platform for banks to use. We continue to onboard entities, and if you have not been onboarded, please, you can go now to the Afrexim Bank pavilion and do so, or you contact our people so that they can be onboarded. Because when you onboard, you are issued a number called the African Entity Identifier number. And with collaboration we have with the Global Legal Entity Identifier, I think it's an initiative that also does the same thing, but not exactly the way we are doing it, but they issue Global Legal Entity Identifier number. What we've done with them is that you can have African Entity Identifier number, and it becomes also one-to-one correlated with the Global Legal Entity Identifier number. Is that African Entity Identifier number that will make it possible for you to use the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. And very soon, if you do not have African Entity Identifier number, we will not process your credit in the bank, because what that does is that it begins to bring transparency to our businesses. Another thing we are doing in the digital space is the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. The situation we have today, where we have 42 payment systems, which is fragmented, it cannot sustain trade, intra-regional trade. Because what it does is that it makes payments inefficient and costly. And it costs us as a continent about $5 billion every year just to pay across borders. When you integrate the payment system as PAPS is doing now, you are able to transfer money faster. As a matter of fact, under PAPS, payments are done in 7 seconds. It makes it cheaper, very, very cheap. I can't remember how much it costs, but it is very, very cheap. It is efficient. You are able to check whatever you want to check quickly and easily online. So when you integrate, that is a way, it's payment that integrates economies, because payment is where you transfer value, and as long as transferring value is a base for any trade, if you do not have an integrated payment system, that trade will be difficult to be conducted. So these are some of the things we are doing in digital space, including the Africa Trade Exchange, which is AFCFTA compliant e-commerce platform that allows you to trade within Africa. So when you go into the platform to trade, you get information on the rules of origin, the tariff concessions that pertain to that trade you want to conduct, and so on and so forth. All these have been put into one ecosystem we call the Africa Trade Gateway. I also invite you for a demonstration at the Afreximbank Pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for that. You know, so many initiatives to integrate economies and transfer value. I'm going to switch over now to the room. My friends in the media, I think our housekeeping is, for those who were with us in Guyana, let's kind of keep that same protocol. When you're called on, just say your name, your publication, and who you are addressing your questions to. And I crave your indulgence. Let's take all the questions that have been asked so far as asked and answered. So please endeavor that the questions you asked are new and beneficial for all. We have roving mics. Who's our first question? Let me see. Yeah, the lady in front here. I see the gentleman at the back.
مساء الخير. أنا هتكلم بالعربي. أنا شيماء مصطفى من بوابة أخبار اليوم. كنت عايزة
Hang on, let's get translation in.
Okay.
Somebody can interpret.
While we're waiting for that, maybe we take one question in English and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
One question in English. A microphone to this gentleman. Oh, sorry, hang on. English? Okay.
Yes.
Ken, I'll come to you. The gentleman over there.
Abdul Latif Wahba, Bloomberg News. I wanted to ask Mr. Dr. Bendeket about what is said about Dangote company and the Nigerian studies to extend the pipelines of natural gas to Morocco. And I know that the World Bank is financing the consultative studies. And we heard that your bank can fund or finance the project too. Can you give us, please, some details about the project? Thank you.
Which project? I don't quite understand it. Did you? You don't understand it? I think it's a topic. Sorry? Yeah, it wasn't very clear, the question.
So if I rephrase your question, sir, the question is, they understand that the Dangote refinery is planning to extend pipelines to Morocco and has their banks that are funding it. What is Afreximbank's role and how is Afreximbank supporting that initiative? Bearing in mind that a study was launched during this week with regards to the Dangote project.
I'm not aware of the Dangote refinery building pipeline to Morocco. I stand to be corrected. I don't think that is there's a project like that. What is seriously being discussed is a collaboration between Nigeria and Morocco, governments of Nigeria and Morocco, to build a pipeline through the Atlantic Ocean from Nigeria to Morocco. That project is being developed. I think the studies are happening now. While on the other side, another pipeline from Nigeria to Algeria. That is a trans-Sahara gas pipeline. So two pipelines, the C1 and the trans-Sahara. Both of them have gathered momentum a bit because I think the European Union have some interest in them, and I'm aware that that very, very active discussions and studies are going on. If that happens, what the pipelines will carry will be largely gas from Nigeria to Morocco and gas from Nigeria through Niger to Algeria, and then of course from there to Europe. The undersea pipeline that's being planned is also expected to take gas where you have them, especially in Senegal, where gas fields have been discovered and are coming on stream. And of course, I think Mauritania, they add on to it there, and then goes to Morocco, and then some of them go on to Europe. That is the project I know that is on. I'm not aware of Dangote refinery.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Do we have translation? We have interpretation now, so we can go back and take your question.
مساء الخير، أنا شيماء مصطفى من بوابة أخبار اليوم هنا في مصر. كنت عايزة أعرف إيه المعوقات اللي هي لغاية دلوقتي مخلية إن مفيش بنوك مركزية كتير اشتركت في نظام المدفوعات، وخطة البنك الفترة اللي جاية لتفعيل نظام المدفوعات ده بحيث إن هو ينتشر على مستوى أفريقيا خلال الفترة اللي جاية. شكراً.
By the time I put on she was halfway. Yeah.
So I got it. There are a couple of central banks who are already on the payment system, but not all of them are. What are the impediments or hurdles or obstacles that the bank is facing with regards to onboarding more central banks?
Yeah, no, thank you. You know, when you embark on something so, I'll call it transformational as the payment system we're doing, you do not expect that everybody will come on board so quickly. You expect some to come and some to learn more, to try to learn more before they come. So we've had to do a lot of education, and of course the African Union Commission, the FCT Secretariat can tell you. So a lot of education to make people understand that this is what works. The good thing is that everybody believed that it was needed. So there were issues about some sub-regions that already have some payment systems. How would this one go? Integrate it to them or work with them, and so on and so forth. So we've been able to overcome all of this. It's not been very easy. It took years. It took a lot of effort on all of us, our partners. But a few months ago, the entire Association of African Central Banks then agreed that the Pan-African payment system was what everybody should get into. It was supported strongly by the early decision of our leaders at the African Union in 2019, adopting the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, the PAPS, as a payment system for the AFCFTA implementation. So that political decision made it possible for us to do the engagements with the central banks, answer all their questions, and then, of course, they then agreed as a group. Then the work to be done is to begin to connect the central banks one by one as they sign on. That is what we are doing now. As you can imagine, it's not easy. There are two, what I call it, two streams. There's a commercial bank settlement model, there's a central bank settlement model. So we central banks one by one as they sign on. That is what we are doing now. As you can imagine, it's not easy. There are two, what I call it, two streams. There's a commercial bank settlement model, there's a central bank settlement model. So we're connecting commercial banks. Today, I think we're about 82 commercial banks. And then, of course, connecting central banks. These require resources. We're trying as much as possible to put as many consultancy companies and individuals as possible to help us connect as quickly as possible, because a payment system is as good as the number of entities that participate in it. So we want to make sure that as many as possible can get in as quickly as possible. And in the same process, our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, the central banks there, they are the group of the Association of the Central Banks of the Caribbean states, CARICOM states, also agreed to adopt the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. And we must also thank them, of course, thank the Central Bank of Barbados that chairs that body for that decision. And that decision was made after they had listened to different payment systems that were presented to them, and they chose to go with the PAPs because they also saw it as answering all the questions they had, and also providing an opportunity for the integration we are seeking between the CARICOM and Africa. So it means then that the PAPs team have work to do in the Caribbean, they have work to do in Africa. But I think that's they are in a good position that they have those things to do, that we are gradually overcoming the political hurdles, which I can tell you is the most difficult part of it. So going forward, we expect that we will ramp up the numbers and people will begin to see the real impact. And I advise you again to go to the Afrizima Pavilion. You will learn more and get a demonstration of a real-life transaction which they can show to you on the platform they have there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My friends, as you can imagine, time is not our friend on this side. I've taken from here, I will take just one more question. We only have time for one more, and then we will need to wrap.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Kenneth Igbomo from CNBC Africa. My question is directed to President Orama, and I'd also like the Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat to also chime in as well. The question is on the AFCFTA Adjustment Fund, and glad to see that this has been operationalized, and Afrexim Bank has approved $1 billion in seed capital for this purpose. But as you go ahead with its implementation, what is the strategy to continue to mobilize resources for this fund?
Your Excellency, do you want to start, and then we'll come back to President Orama?
Well, actually, the chairman of President Ekra, the chairman of the Adjustment Fund, is here. Well, as you said, the AFCFTA Adjustment Fund has been operationalized. The first board meeting that President Ekra chaired was convened in Kigali, Rwanda, at the end of September. The objective is to complement what Afrexim Bank graciously made available, the $1 billion, to mobilize up to $10 billion. The countries or private sector that will benefit, the fund will support their export development activities to enable them to take advantage of the AFCFTA. The ministers of trade have been receiving regular reports. In fact, when they meet again in December, they will conclude on the criteria for eligibility under the fund. But it is general criteria, but the main thing is the most important priority is for the fund to invest in productive sectors that will encourage and foster industrialization, that will enable small, medium enterprises to enhance their export capabilities for trade under the rules of the AFCFTA. So that is where we are. I don't know if President Ekra would like to say something in his capacity as the chairman of the AFCFTA Adjustment Fund. Thank you.
Well, you almost said it all. We had a board meeting yesterday morning here as we are moving forward to ensure that we accelerate the implementation and the operationalization. So we will be constantly engaged because there is urgency to ensure that the AFCFTA initiative moves forward quickly. I think he's given the most important information is the Afreximbank has committed already $1 billion, and we hope that when the fund is operational, then we can raise more funds to ensure that we achieve our objectives.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of the media, I think this is where we kind of wrap. We do have other opportunities for media engagement, so I know you all have been on my case since the beginning of this week, but we will find more and more opportunities for engagement before the end of the day. As we bring this closing ceremony to a close, I do have two additional thanks to mention. The first is to the government of Egypt. It has been a long journey from when they accepted to host this IATF 2023. Their support, their dedication, their commitment, being with us as hosts, but also as co-organizers, have from the very beginning has been incredibly tremendous. So please, a round of applause for the government of Egypt for their support throughout this process. And it is also with great pleasure and pride and honor that we express our sincere and in-depth gratitude to none other than our President, Professor Benedict Orama, Chairman of the Board of Directors. Your vision, your strategic leadership, your unending commitment to the vision and mission of the bank. You lead the charge every single day, non-stop. Some of us have to gather ourselves together to keep up with your pace. But your vision, this is a dream that we have all bought into because of your visionary leadership, because of your commitment, because of your unending commitment to this mission and vision of promoting intra-Africa trade, of building prosperity for Africans, and for really bringing Africa to a new frontier of prosperity and development and growth. And all we can say is thank you. We are proud and honored to stand and lock arms with you in this journey. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to officially close this press conference and this IATF 2023. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Big round of applause to all of you. Thank you. Gentlemen, just one photo. May I welcome on stage, for those who are here, the Executive Vice Presidents of the bank to join in this really momentous moment of pride, of joy,